Hi, I'm Leslie Clayton, and I founded an organization called the Joyous Heart Network. And today I'm here with a mentor, teacher, and friend of mine, Christian Pankhurst, the founder of the Heart IQ Academy, the Heart IQ Experience. And the reason I asked Christian to join me today is that I'm having a conversation with my teachers, the ones who have helped me, because I am a survivor of childhood sexual abuse. And I started the organization because I wanted to open the conversation up about what does it take to move past the limitations and the challenges that show up in adulthood for people who've been molested or worse when they're children. And the Heart IQ process experiences have been an important part of my journey. It's helped me in my business. I think I'm a better Pilates teacher. I'm more Christian's leadership and the processes that I've experienced in the Heart IQ Academy and the retreats have given me refinement and my ability to communicate what I want to when I want to help somebody in their embodiment of their own body. So my business is actually called Body Awareness. So I somehow knew that I needed more body awareness as I grew up into my Pilates practice for 25 years. So anyway, that's just a little bit about me. And so for people that don't know Christian, I invite you to go to the Heart IQ website, heartiq.com, and look for the Heart IQ experience. There's going to be a workshop in America soon in April coming up. And he's so articulate and able to express what these programs can give you. I just think that's a wonderful way, but we have him right here. So Christian, thank you for joining me today.
Yay. Oh, I'm so excited to do this, especially when you shared about this topic, not because I find this topic really, really juicy and exciting to talk about. It's just so meaningful because it's so prevalent that in every retreat and every event, I'm always like, oh my God, there is so much childhood sexual abuse. It's not one off or it's like a lot of people think that, oh God, it only happens to a few. And yet when people really open up, it's like, wow, it is so prevalent and common. And because of that, I've worked in this area with people who have experienced childhood sexual abuse for the better part of 16 years. So it's been a huge part of my life's work. And I know the impact that it has on adults and then onto their children and the generational pain that could come from it. So I'm looking forward to digging deep in this call to share more about what I've encountered and to also learn something from you too, because we're all, taking this journey together.
Yes, yes. And it does take community, and that's something I'd like to get into actually but a little later I'd like to get into that. The first thing I'm wanting to ask is, from your experience, what do you see as some of the manifestations in adulthood? Can you talk about some of the perhaps the physical illness? And I know that's one thing, but then there's also just the relationship challenges, the emotional relationships, but they're kind of related. So
They
there's,
are, they are. Hmm.
what have you seen in your experience?
Yeah, I would say there are some more direct and then some indirect symptoms that occur uh, in terms of people's physical illness. There can be literally a direct correlation between their sexual abuse and then their nervous system feeling so unsafe that it creates an adrenal fight or flight response that can't switch off. That hypervigilance creates a lot of stress, and then you get all the stress-borne illnesses, whether it's heart disease, but it's often with women in the digestive areas, and especially from the womb and their uterus and their genital area. A lot of women have hysterectomies much earlier than they should due to problems, ovarian cancers. And I'm not saying all of these are linked to childhood sexual abuse. I'm saying that my history of talking to women, especially within this field or this area, have led to these correlations that they connect. So a lot of them say, I really feel this has got something to do with it. Then you got less direct correlations, things like they feel so shameful around what happened and confused, especially with the dynamic of, with many women, it was this confusing time when, as young sexual beings, they enjoyed their sexuality but felt the boundary violation, didn't know how to say no. It was confused with love. And then they get into this place of, was it my fault? Did I lead it on? Was there something I did? And that shame is usually protected by weight. So often a lot of people have then a weight problem. And the weight becomes a form of protection, or what we call in hard IQ, as you know, a steward, a place of extra protection to keep others out emotionally and to keep us from feeling ourselves as well.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I can relate to a lot of those things.
Yeah. And then, of course, you also, and then, but I think the biggest one is, the emotional anatomy and the energetic anatomy that often occurs is fascinating. So again, I've got no evidence of this. Again, this is just my heart speaking, and it's just my way of translating the dynamics that I've witnessed. But I see that when people are born in an environment where they are felt and honored and there's healthy boundaries, people create an energetic container that is really intact, it's strong, it's wholesome. Any form of violation, trauma, abuse kind of fractures that container, and this beautiful bubble of energy that keeps us as us and others out as others. This part of us that can really feel ourselves versus having to merge with the whole world. It kind of gets fractured with abuse. So there's this container that is no longer able to hold who we are and others out. It becomes broken, so it lets energy come in that shouldn't. And this is a really devastating symptom, because what happens is, on an energetic level, the abuse and violation almost creates a leak in our energetic container, which then allows more and then that, combined with the shame, pushes sexuality underground, and then the sexual abuse victims' sexual energy kind of goes out underground and actually puts out signals to attract even further abuse. It's almost like a vicious cycle of, in some cases, more and more abuse. It's a crazy story I've heard time and time again, something that happened in childhood, and then years go by and you just hear story again, and then there's another person, and then there's a rapist, and then there's a husband, and it's like, oh my God, what is the string of correlating factors that attracts this level of abuse? And and I'm not here saying that it's the person's fault. It's like, oh my God, it's not that. It's the fact that there's something happening on the neural, emotional, energetic anatomy of the container of somebody who has an early fracture in childhood around this. And therefore things become leaky and porous, and they let things in that they shouldn't let in. They don't have the healthy boundaries to say no. They don't know how to say no anymore.
Hmm. I'd say that there's sometimes the ways that I learned how to recognize when I was doing that, because I would attract relationships, and I call it attract because I mean that's what it, when I look back on it, they say that, um, in animals attract, like the predator and prey kind of thing.
Yes. Yes.
I kind of, in my mind, started to recognize that, or call it a matching picture in a way. Like there's a match, like an electromagnetic match, a matching picture of some kind, that it would seem to, like, why is this happening to me again? I thought I learned this lesson, and here it would be again. So those processes that we're all doing in community, we're learning how to come in
Yeah.
and kind of unravel, or you call it cross wires.
Yes, that's right.
and learning how to unweave and reweave the new patterns that we want. That's one of the things that I'm finding. I'm loving it in the process. I'm loving it in a lot of the programs I do. And Heart IQ, I've been I guess since 2012 really fascinated and in love with the processes and the programs, and yeah, just so grateful for it. So I don't know if you want to speak a little bit more about that unweaving and reweaving process. Is that something you'd like to share about?
Yeah, I'm just feeling in as you were talking, and I felt like actually, no, it feels what you named and what I named before feels really complete in that. So nothing. I mean, I could add more words, but I'm not really wanting to add more words. I feel like you explained it clearly, and yeah, it feels really ready to move on.
Okay, cool. So I guess I'm curious about the survive. If there's someone listening to this interview that maybe has never shared their story, or maybe doesn't even know that their childhood trauma, and it doesn't have to be just sexual abuse. I mean, it could be any kind of
Totally.
childhood trauma that could show up in
Hmm.
ways that's addictive patterns, those things. It's it's scary to take that first step towards healing. I know I have a lot of defensiveness in my being, and a lot of need to do it myself, figure it out myself. um so I don't know, I'm just wondering if there's words of wisdom you'd like to share with someone who maybe hasn't told their
Yeah.
story or shared their story. They really don't think it's going to even possible to be different, so why bother
Yes.
try?
Yes. It's beautiful. Thank you for naming this because there's a couple of things I would want to share, and that is it's so important that you share your story. Your story is so, so welcome, and it's part of the healing process to share it. The caveat is to whom do you share it? And what's the quality container and space that's available to receive it without fixing, without trying to necessarily dissect it and psychoanalyze you? I'm a big fan of letting these stories be felt, and where we can, as a community, witness and share the grief together of the loss and the beauty. And it sounds strange to say beauty, but there's beauty in the exchange of opening this part of our inner world and being received there. And there is this tendency in some arenas in the personal development field, for example, to go, no, 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 you don't want to share your story. Stories just reenact. It's just you embedding more of the reality. Forget the story. Just go direct to source and draw in healing. And there's almost like a denial. Not a denial. You follow what I'm saying, right? There's almost like this like we don't want to go into the story because that will amplify or reenact potentially the victim mentality. And what I have found is that, oh my God, it's such a beautiful and essential part is to share our story. And for me, Sacred Circle is where that is done. Now, it can be done therapeutically one-to-one. That's beautiful space that friends and therapists and professionals can hold. And yet there's something amazing about doing this in an amplified field, as you know. That is just incredible. And half the healing, I think, takes place in that first time that we get to share this. And the second piece, so the first thing is like, be wary of anybody who says your story isn't welcome and you should find a shortcut route to healing. Secondly, I think community and a sacred space is really, really important. And trust if you feel safe. What I've noticed is that I would never say, for example, as a facilitator, okay, guys, who here has suffered from sexual abuse? Okay, you, I'd like to tell your story. Yeah, you would never hear that come out of my mouth. That type of confrontative, I'm going to pull this out of you. What I've found is that all healing has its time. And when people are ready to share, when they feel the space is safe, they do automatically, without push, without confronting, without challenge, And so my job is to create the safest space possible. And then from that space, people begin to open and share. So, and when you do share, a good indication that you are held is that you feel so loved, and the attention goes so deep inside, it feels like healing balm as honey, and you feel lighter and more open, even though the tears flow and all of it begins to unpack. And often, if it's the first time that the story is told, it's really, really, really vital to talk about the details. So if I were to coach somebody in sharing their story for the first time in the presence of others, what often happens is that people go, I was abused. It was my father. And I'm exaggerating a little bit, but literally that would be it. They would just name the fact that it happened and who did it to them, and maybe an age when it happened. But what's really important is to play it back like a movie as we feel that person in that space, and therefore to encourage the detail. For example, it was nighttime, the sun just set. I walked up to my bedroom, I was in my pajamas, and I went into the bed. And to describe the smells, the textures, the fear, the whole experience. And there's something about telling the actual story that is so incredibly powerful and healing, and not to just keep it to the bare bones facts. I found that to be an absolutely essential component. And then to hold space for all the conflicting emotions that come out of that story. Because there's going to be grief, there's going to be rage, there's going to be shame, guilt, blame, powerlessness. But underneath all of that is their deepest, truest light and essence that's just waiting to burst out. And to me, it's the most glorious and most rewarding thing to unravel and unpack that. So again, from our perspective, from Hard IQ, we allow the story to be told because in order to have the opportunity for them to be heard, because if they've never told it before, it's like a life-changing experience. And yet at the same time, if there is a looping going on where this isn't the first time, this is the 100th time, and it's now the story of victimization that keeps somebody stuck, that's completely different. Because it is possible to use the story as a justification of being where we are. So that it all depends on the healing journey and where we're at on it as well. And if that's the case, that's the time where a more penetrating kind of, hey, let's break this pattern, let's shift into a different gear. So there's a different time and place for different people based on where they are on that healing journey. That comes with experience to be able to feel and navigate that.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I can so appreciate the contained space, the nuances and the elegance with which you and those trained practitioners can feel those edges, because that's breakthroughs when you've been on the journey, when I've been on the journey for a long time and need that discernment and leadership. It's just it's amazing, so safe for those breakthroughs.
I think a big danger that I've seen is people who want to heal, they don't want to feel their pain, and instead they want to go direct to forgiveness, and the forgiveness channel is too early in their healing journey. So forgiveness becomes naturally available as a byproduct of doing the healing work. But if we try to go to forgiveness, we know that it's not the right time, because forgiveness is natural. Forgiveness is the conclusion of the healing process that occurs once we've gone through the previous steps. We don't need to do forgiveness, which is an ironic myth that often people have. But I do notice that there are a lot of people that want to go direct there because they want to avoid the other parts of it. So that's like going to the light rather than feeling the human wound. It's like we need to take care. Our nervous system needs to take care. It's like you've got to remember that any form of trauma, neglect, violation, it's stored in the body as tension, right? It's like literally our nervous system remembers these as contortion patterns that are held in our bodies. And a lot of somatic therapy and different types of body work helps to kind of unkink the hose pipes. This isn't something that's done through a change of mind. You know, we can't reframe our belief systems to unkink our body. We have to go in the body to heal the body. So there's, you know, as you know, in Hard IQ, there are these what we call 4 directions of joy or access. So we got this vertical channel, this connection to source and our being and our essence. It's who we are. But then we also have the world of our bodies, our emotions. This is where a lot of our traumas and shame and contortions and tension lies. And then we have this horizontal channel of our relationship with others, our capacity to be who we are in the presence of others. Can we dare be free in the presence of others? And can we dare let other people in and feel loved and feel opened by others? You know, so all these channels, these 4 directions need to be worked. And I noticed that abuse, for example, impacts all of them. Now, it impacts people in different ways, but often a trauma and abuse can cause people to go vertically up and hide out in the new age bypass of being out of their body because they don't feel safe to be in their body. So they found a beautiful hovering place just energetically outside so they can not have to feel what goes on here. So their self-intimacy lacks. And also these people are wonderful at feelers. They can feel other people because they have to. They've been taught to be vigilant of where is their danger in their environment. And they often become the teachers and the facilitators and the brilliant coaches because they can read their clients really well. But then ultimately they're not dealing with their own pain. You know, healer, heal thyself. You know, it's like they have often the biggest wounds. So that's often the trap, is like when we meet up against our wounding, the tendency is to go up and leave the body a little bit. And then, of course, the horizontal channel is also impacted. I think one of the most sad impact symptoms of any form of violation or abuse is the impact it has on intimate relationships in terms of who they attract, but also the quality of that intimacy and the quality of the shut down, disconnected sex life, where instead of it being a vibrant, beautiful, energetic connection from the heart, it can turn very fear-based, tension release-based, and almost as it can really go into different places, but every area of this is impacted.
Yes, I can definitely express that or share that. That's one of the things that I experienced, but one of the saddest things about that, and I might cry because I'm feeling
okay.
it, is that, you know, for how many years I didn't even know that I wasn't feeling. I had no idea there was more to feel. And that's what motivates me and inspires me now, because now that I have felt more and my body has come so alive, and the Heart IQ experience has been a huge factor in my ability to relax and let more love in and let more joy in. It's like I can't not try to share that message. because I had no idea what I was missing.
Yeah. Oh, it's so beautiful. Yeah. Love it. Thank you for sharing your tender, beautiful heart, Leslie. It's so, mm, yeah. Well, it's such a gift. It's such a gift to feel more. And you're right. When we are living in that place of closure, it's so easy to go numb and feel less and not even know what's possible, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm imagining if that's true for me, it's got to be true for some other folks out there.
Not only you, I mean, like, as I said, I must have encountered hundreds, if not thousands. It's literally must have been that amount by now, of people who have had sexual abuse that I've worked with directly. You are not speaking from a solo place. There is a common theme throughout them all. They might express and manage their pain and do different things with their pain, but ultimately, the work of Hard IQ, as you know, is to open the heart joyfully and safely so that we can feel more in all of these directions. We can feel more light and love and our true essence and our connection to the divine. We can feel our bodies and our emotion, and we can feel others. That's it. It's very simple.
It's like, okay, let's all do this now together, please.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And so there by leads me to another question that there's a big cost in my life. I recognize the cost that it cost me years. I was 50 years old when I found Heart IQ. And it wasn't that I wasn't already experiencing joy. I've been on the path of awakening since I was 30, and I've had amazing joyful experiences. And it could just be that what was going on in my life at the time that I found Heart IQ. I was in a relationship that was deteriorating with someone who was suffering from a mental illness that we didn't know that that's what was
Mm.
happening. So there was
Wow.
a lot of changes happening and
Yeah.
going, heading towards menopause also. So there's different changes that happen in a woman's body when she turns 50. But there was just, when I think of the cost, the years that I didn't, and not to put judgment or blame, because there's no judgment or blame or criticism about how I lived my life before, but wow, what a cost to not have emotionally, energetically, spiritually, because there's a spiritual disconnect, and of course sexually, just the joy, um, and not only those things, but then I even think about the cost of not being more confident and secure to bring my joy to others. It costs others that missed out on this, me,
Wow.
right?
Totally. Totally. Wow. When you put it that way, I'm like, shit. It's a big cost. I mean, you're absolutely right. I can retranslate. I can translate that into my own version of that, of when I'm not living in my deepest heart, and when I've had so much closure, and I have to live in defense or in a place of numbness. What is the cost in all of that? So I get it. The cost is enormously high, which is why, and yet at the same time, it's like, thank God you found it at 50. And it wasn't 70 or 80 or God forbid, never at all. Um, I always think back to my gran, who, I don't know what happened. All I know, something happened. And she never took treatment for it. And she is like 94 years old in an old people's home, still bitter and contorted from that. Wasn't able ever to release from it. That's a lifelong cost. And yet, it depends on your spiritual belief system, that, that there's the path that we're on. And who are we to judge another's path as being right or wrong, or better or worse? And at the end of the day, I don't want anybody here listening to this to think oh shit, I've left it too late. Yes, it costs to wait a second longer, but now you know, do something about it. But don't beat yourself up for waiting for so this long, because like I said, all healing has its time. And what if it took this long to be ready, and that there is, and I would go even one step further and say, what if there is in fact medicine and healing and transformation from all of the waiting? It's like pressure. It's forging something beautiful to emerge. And what if you needed all this time to hibernate and harvest, and eventually this dark part of you, this pain, is going to turn into the greatest asset and gift in your life? And that's the beauty that I found with all sexual abuse victims or abuse or trauma victims. If they are willing to feel and take this kind of like multi-directional approach to their healing, they can translate their experience and their story into one of the most powerful assets of their life. They don't have to deal with this as a disability. In fact, it's like it becomes a part of their rich tapestry, where they are now more because of it than they could ever have without it. And in fact, many people end up going, I'm so grateful for it, and I wouldn't have given up any of it, because of who I am today was created out of it. And like, wow, that is awesome. I remember when you took space, and for those listening, taking spaces, we're in a circle and the energy feels right for an individual to go further on their own journey, and they get more specific attention to look at the different areas where they may be needing to expand. And so Leslie was taking space. It was her kind of turn. She had said, yes, it's my time. And I remember you took space for your own experience of sexual abuse. And what was fascinating is, as you took the space and you shared your story, which was so powerful, and I remember then you picked up the baton. This was back in 2012 now. It must have been back in Amsterdam, in the hotel in Netherlands. I mean, this was a long, long time ago. But you know what was so fascinating is that you did something so courageous. You took a massive step of practicing your boundary. You literally were practicing your no and letting that fire and giving yourself permission to be angry. And what was very clear to me was how accessible your fire, your power was. And I saw instantly that you were much further on your healing journey that you were giving yourself credit for. And I said, no, this is really, really healthy and good. You've got this. Whatever work that you've done that has led to this point is feeling really solid. But do you remember what was so healing about what you did? Is that it inspired the other women, and it brought out the sexual abuse that others were experiencing but were far earlier on their healing journey. And it inspired them to take their step. And it was what's called connecting space, where somebody is sharing, creates such an alive energy in the circle that it entrains and it moves another's nervous system into action without them really knowing. And it just brought you became an instigator, you became a leader of healing for sexual abuse in that entire circle. And 2, 3, 4 different women took space after you. So in the end, it wasn't about you, but you were pivotal in others stepping up and taking their first step. And I remember that so vividly as such a powerful way that circle can heal, and why we need to do this together and not on our own.
Thank you, and so true. And even though it was maybe not about me, it was about creating that trickle effect. One of the things I'd like to acknowledge, I think it was 2013. It
Was it? Okay.
yeah, and the boundary piece has always been so elusive for me, and I'd never done it that way before. And it's that moment. It was like one quick moment of no,
That's
and the
right.
visceral experience of the no was so. It was, and I had to do it my way. You had offered me suggestions, that have worked and that work, and then some, and they do work, and I have done some of those things before, but I had to like say, okay, thank you, and now I need to do it a different
Yeah.
way right now. That was
Awesome.
very empowering, and to have the
Yes.
space to choose to do it a different way. I didn't know what the way would be,
Yes.
but I knew it wasn't that other way.
Yes.
So that no has stayed with me time and time again, just the visceral cellular experience of being able to do it my way, and in that quick, clear no. And
Mm.
it has been so viscerally palpable in my work life, and being able to set new boundaries in my personal life and work. I mean, it's just been, I just want to acknowledge that, because I know you don't always get to hear how those moments in the workshops.
I know. I don't, and I miss it. I wish I knew more, because it's sometimes it's like a big gap. It's like, where do these people go? What happens to them? I know something amazing happened in the room, but it's like, so it's wonderful to hear. Really wonderful. Yay. Leslie, do you have children? Okay, cool. Has that decision come from just choosing that's not in your life path? Is it something to do with what happened to you when you were younger? Is it just medical? Sorry for being personal. I mean, you may think this has got nothing to do with it, but I am curious. If you don't want to answer the question, you don't have to.
I think it's curious. It's curious to me as well, because I really don't know the true answer, except for I can share that as a little girl, I don't know if it's at all related, but I can remember when I had a baby doll for Christmas, and I can remember feeling very uncomfortable having even a baby doll in public, like taking the stroller out in my front yard and thinking, oh, someone's going to take this baby away from me. I don't deserve it. I'm not going to
Wow.
be able to take care of it well.
Wow.
So I remember that. And I mean, I don't know where that came from, this life or another life or
Yeah.
whatever. I was so young.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I never wanted to be married. I mean, I've been proposed to.
Mm.
I've had beautiful men in my life who wanted to be a life partner, but I just knew I'm not going to do that. And maybe I
Fascinating.
will later, but yeah, I just have had that. No, thank you. I love coupleship, love relationship, but no, thank you for the marriage.
Wow. Wow, cool, fascinating. Okay, thanks, Rance. It's just it was so. I'm not sure where the image came from, but I just for whatever reason it came in, it just was very clear to me that you would make an amazing mum. That was just the thing that just came very very clearly. I don't know why. I've got no evidence for it other than knowing who you are a little bit, but then it's fascinating to hear that it's not been a part of your world. But yeah,
Yeah, and
cool.
some of the teachers that I've been with have, I guess I maybe carry a bit of a grandmother energy that I've been
Hmm.
told by some of the elders, and so maybe that I'm just a grandmother
Who
in some
knows?
way. Like,
Yeah,
instead of having the children, I'll just love on love on people.
cool.
Yeah, thank you. So I know one of the reasons that we're talking today is to open up this conversation about how to heal sexual abuse. What are some resources? And I also would like to put a plug in for a workshop that I'm doing this.
Hmm.
It's a workshop, but it's a conversation in Atlanta. So if anybody in Atlanta or around Atlanta is going to hear this video, hear this conversation on Saturday here in Atlanta from 1:30 to 5, you can find on my Facebook page How to Heal Sexual Trauma and the Joyous Heart Network. And we'll be doing
Yeah,
some really sweet uh, sacred space kind of things as well, and some beautiful songs that
yeah.
open the heart. And also we want to make sure that people in my network can check out the Heart IQ experience, and there's going to be one in USA in April.
Yeah, on the 12th to the 15th.
Yeah, in
Yeah,
Oregon, is that right?
that's right. In Portland. We're going to do a taste. We're going to do a taster day on the 3rd of April, where it's kind of like, hey, you want to check it out, see what it feels like to be in a circle like this, and then a couple of weeks later, on the 12th to the 15th, a 4-day initiation event where, remember, I spoke about these 4 directions. We get to just open them all up and have people feel what it feels like to go from the personal to the collective healing channel, to connect to source, feel their bodies and connect with each other in ways that are just unimaginable. Yeah, it's just beautiful. So excited about it. Yay. Yeah, and I'm so grateful that you're doing stuff like this. So I really hope that people in Atlanta or nearby, or even those further afield, can come and do this, because this is so important work. I'm so glad that you're doing this and like paying it forward, passing it on, and sharing your story. And you know, that's how we heal. Just like the pain can be passed on. Why not pass on the healing?
Yes. Yes. It's too delicious. It's too wonderful, and it's too precious. You know,
Yeah.
it's too precious to live, to have this life, and to have. It's just like, yeah, let's get on board here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I think of more questions, I might actually write them on Facebook or do
Yeah.
another interview if you're up for it, because I can feel some more questions are going to be brewing.
Yes, you are more than welcome. I think what a lot of this kind of stuff, and I invite anybody who is on Facebook who's maybe watching some of this, is to ask questions and let that be a discussion, because like you said, sometimes this stirs, and then out of that, some really important conversation begins. And like I said, I just want to recap just a few pieces here, if I may. Can I do that? Are we well over your time? I didn't even ask you what the time boundary was. Do you know? Okay, great. Yeah, so it's more like I just wanted to share that I want to talk directly to those of you who've experienced sexual abuse or any form of abuse, but specifically sexual abuse. There's nothing wrong with you. That is the first thing that I want to say. There's nothing wrong with you. And the shame, the guilt, the confusion, they are all nervous system crossed wires, and the unworthiness is built out of years of not knowing how to move and deal with all that pain. It's not who you are. You've confused feeling bad with being bad, but you are not bad, dirty, unworthy of love, and you can have beautiful, healthy, sexual, intimate relationships. And it's going to require you to take the courageous step to expose your inner world, your story, and share this with those who can hold and bring that out. And like I also said, not to share it to dwell in it, but to share it to free yourself from it. And not to have it define you, but have it fuel you. See, if a story defines us, we go into the victim channel. I call that channel 1. And channel 1 is this place of you use it as an excuse and as a reason to be weak and smaller than you really are, rather than carrying yourself with such light and strength that you can tell your story, but you're not your story. You have a personality, you are not your personality. You have emotions, you are not your emotions. So this is the work that we can do. And I just want to encourage you to, get into really sacred spaces, sacred groups of people that can love you and feel you. And it's in the smallest things that make the biggest difference. It doesn't require big, intensive interventions to become healing. We just need a love. We just need to be in the presence of really loving, accepting, unconditional spaces. We need high quality attention. We need stillness and an opportunity to feel ourselves again. And it's in the simplest environments like that make all the big difference. We don't need the bells and whistles. There is no magic pill. There's just opening yourself up and inviting yourself to feel felt. And I just feel like it's just felt important to to name a few of those pieces. And just as a final part here, it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be angry. A lot of us, we make our anger wrong and we shut it down, and then that's what creates depression, because we decide to make all feeling wrong, and that's the cause of depression. Depression isn't feeling sad, it's when we've shut down all feeling. So it's really important that you get an opportunity to, if it feels right, to go uncontained, to let it rip, to be held by a larger container of people, so that you can just have your tantrums, have your full kind of like rage outs, and just get it out, and to give yourself permission to blame and make wrong. And that's hard when the people who have perpetrated against us are the ones that we love, like our parents. We don't want to shout at them, scream at them, and hate on them, because we can understand potentially as an adult that they did the best that they could, and we love them. And yet we have to put that part to one side sometimes and let it rip. Let ourselves experience what that part of us, that younger part, has always wanted to do. Not to do it forever, but it's an important part of the journey. And like I said, not seek forgiveness so quickly that it bypasses the need for you to feel all of these different parts that have been buried deep and locked away. Because if you do that, you won't get the rich gold and harvest the fuel and the juice and the life force that's stored in them. Every trauma that you've ever had has bound energy connected to it. And if you feel it and let it free through your being with it, you're going to be able to become so much more vital and alive because of it. And it's so much easier to do that together in community, with others, in an amplified field, than on your own or even one-to-one. So yeah, that's my little recap.
That is so important in every word. Yes, I can really feel that in my own journey, how true that is. And the question that came up right before the recap is relevant to this, and that is that as family members are wanting to help a survivor, it sometimes can be really confusing for brother, sister, mom, dad, husband, wife to hold space. And I have a sister who's suffering, and she's older than me. And one of the questions that I had for a long time wanted to ask you, never sat down to write it or ask it on Facebook or whatever, was that what kind of advice can you give to a mother, father, brother, sister, husband, wife, family member that is in the presence of a dear loved one who is really suffering with pain, depression, victimization, who's trying to get help, going to seeking help, but not someone who's taken someone, she's not taking the personal growth workshop route, but taking a different route, not in a medication, but it's just one of the hardest things to do is to see someone. And even I can speak to, my relationship with my significant other who was going through a mental illness that we didn't recognize that what it was, but to hold space for someone who's not well. Yeah, it's not workshop, it's real life.
Yeah, so get it. I think I always loved to first ensure that the carers are taken care of. And what that basically means is, if you are in a position where you're taking care of, or you're in a relationship with somebody who's really suffering with sexual abuse, and you're having to hold them, deal with their depression, their victimhood, I would ask first, what is your support system? Do you have a place to recharge? Because it's easy to drop into the hole with others. And yeah, what you want to be able to do is throw people a rope and not jump in the hole. Because if we jump into the hole, now there's two people in the hole. And then you're both screaming to get out. And it becomes this codependent place of pain. So in order to stay able to offer the rope and not fall in yourself, you need to have others who can be there with you. So community is the key here. So I think if you have a loved one who's suffering, but you yourself are alone and isolated, that's a warning red flag for me. We need to be in the presence of others. We need our own support. So I know, ironically, you might have been thinking I would have been talking about the support system that the victim has. But I think it's really important that the people who are offering help have support, because they need to stay strong and vital and alive, right? Now, from that place of putting on our own mask before putting it on another, now we can be more of a support. I'm a big fan of what I call the entrainment principle, which basically means that others are more impacted by our being than they are by what we say. So, for example, as a family member, however difficult this is, but your responsibility is to be as bright and as healthy a version of you that you can be, which is why you'll often hear me say the quote, "The greatest gift you can give to another is to become a fully healthy you." Show them a healthy model of sexuality. Show them a healthy model of intimacy. Show them what it means to be self-intimate with your body. Show them what it means to deeply connect with self and other, to be inspired by source. Show them what it looks like to have clear boundaries, not by teaching them, educating, preaching, not by making them wrong and trying to fix them, but just living an incredible life. Staying light, being playful, not letting their mood take you down that path. Taking them seriously, but not forgetting that their wounding is not who they are. You see beyond it. You see the soul beyond them. You see that they are part of the weights and the gymnasium of your practice to stay connected. And that light that you then emit becomes the entrainment. They will tune into that frequency. But if you're heavy, worried, and always dwelling in their pain and not, being all concerned, then you now have become a match to their pain and their victimization. And that is equivalent to jumping into the hole with them. Now, that's not easy. And it's a worthy practice. And by practice, it means we're sometimes going to do it and sometimes we're not. And can you love yourself in the moments when you're not doing it? It's easy to be like, yay, in the moments we were successful. But can we go, yay, in the moments that we did the best that we could, but we failed to reach the mark? Can we in that moment go, God, I am in the fight, I'm in the fire with this, I'm doing the best that I can, but today I lost my patience and I completely went into a place of victimization myself. Yeah, I didn't remain in my zone of support. Oh well, tomorrow's a new day.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for speaking into that. That's such a yeah. So I hope that
I also feel like it's important just to name the generational impact that sexual abuse has on children, even if the children aren't even aware that their parents were sexually abused. So let's say, for example, a child, or I'm just going to say a mother for now, or like a young girl gets sexually abused. She doesn't know how to deal with her pain. She grows up never being able to really share. It becomes a hidden part of her underworld, and it becomes this secret, this unspoken. And it can create addictions, depression, mental health issues, physical health issues, you name it. This person grows into an adult, meets a man, whether it's healthy or not, they have a child. Now that child is now growing up in an environment, and that child has a mother with undigested shame, undigested sexual abuse. That sexual abuse has a risk of being passed on energetically down the line as a nervous system imprint, and that child will begin to carry shame that isn't even theirs. They'll grow up going, why do I feel so dirty and ashamed around my sexuality? And there was nothing, they didn't even get abused. But their nervous system is as if they were. Now that is devastating. To me, like, oh my God, it's one thing to end the abuse, but we really need to end the passing on of that energetic abuse down the line. And we do that through a process called generational healing and giving back. And it comes through recognition and the awareness. That's why it's so important that each of us who've got trauma in any form, we do our own work, not just for us, but for all those whose lives we touch. Because the next generation shouldn't have to carry what we couldn't. It ends with us. It ends here. It ends now.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Oh. Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else you wanted to ask, or does this feel like a good place to complete? We're coming to the hour mark.
Feels like a really good place to complete. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, me too. And like you said, if other questions come, let's continue the conversation. This is a conversation, and I really hope that this has been helpful for your network, for your audience, and for mine too, for those listening in on Facebook. And yeah.
Thank you. I look forward to the next time I'm in the live presence with you and those wonderful retreats, the Heart IQ
Yay.
experience, and whatever else gets born out of your
crazy, chaotic, manifesting mind. Yes, I got it.
I'm along for the ride, however it shows up. I'll be, bouncing around or showing up. I don't bounce around much, but I show up and then I retreat.
Wow. Wow, such a beautiful. Thank you so much for inviting me into this. I've really enjoyed it, Leslie, and it's such an important conversation, and I know everyone's going to get value from it. So thank you for doing what you're doing. And like I said, I hope people can get to you in Atlanta, and so that they can experience the gift that you bring and the gift that you are.